Hey everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel Code and Create. I hope you're doing great and are ready to continue working on our project. In the last part, we built the project section, which turned out to be an incredible addition to our site. We learned how to implement interactive filters to showcase different projects based on the selected technology. Plus, we added some cool animations to make the project cards more dynamic and engaging for our users. I hope you enjoyed every bit of it as much as we did. If you missed that part, I highly recommend checking it out. In today's part, we're going to focus on building two very important components, the pricing plans and the contact sections. These sections will add a lot of value to our website by clearly presenting our services and offering visitors a way to get in touch. But before we jump in, make sure you've liked this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future parts of this series. And of course, if you have any questions or thoughts along the way, don't forget to drop a comment down below. Your feedback means a lot. Alright, now let's dive into what we will be building today. First up is the pricing plans section. This section is crucial because it gives potential clients a clear view of what services we offer and the pricing details for each plan. We're going to create a set of beautifully designed pricing cards, each highlighting different tiers of services. For each card, we will display the plan's title, pricing information, a list of features that come with the plan, and a brief description of who would benefit the most from that plan. We're going to use a mix of layout techniques to make this grid of pricing cards visually appealing and easy to understand. To make this section stand out even more, we will use framer motion to add animations so each card smoothly pops into view as the user scrolls. And to top it off, we will introduce a hover effect that will scale the card slightly, adding a touch of interactivity. This will make our pricing section not only functional but also visually engaging. Once we finish the pricing section, we'll move on to the contact section. This section is all about providing a seamless way for visitors to reach out to us. We'll start by placing a welcoming image on the left side of the form, creating a friendly and approachable vibe. Then we will build a clean and simple contact form where users can fill in their name, email, subject, and message. We'll give this form a neat and professional look by using rounded input fields and a text area for the message. To make the form even more inviting, we will add a send message button that changes on hover, adding an interactive feel to the experience. And just like we did with the pricing section, we will use framer motion to introduce smooth animations. The image and the form will slide into view as the user scrolls down, adding a polished and modern touch to our site. So both sections are essential for a well-rounded website, allowing visitors to understand your services and providing them with an easy way to get in touch. So with that overview in mind, let's get started and bring these sections to life. So as usual, the first thing that we have to do is to create a new component in the components folder. It's going to be pricing plans.jsx. Then we need to create a new functional component using RAFCE shortcut. I'm going to add here use client. Then I'm going to open page.js file, and here I'm going to duplicate this line of code. Let's change the name of the component. We need pricing plans, and also I'm going to insert here new component pricing plans. Let's go back to the pricing plans component. So here I'm going to add some content to the component. First of all, let's get rid of this text and insert here heading of the section. We need here text attribute, and the text is going to be pricing plans. We need to import these subcomponents. So we need here import heading from sub, and then we have to select heading. Now if we go to the browser, you'll find here the heading of the newly created section. Next, I'm going to add some content to the component. Right after heading, I'm going to open div tag. Then we need again div tag, in which I'm going to open h1 heading tag with the text basic. Then after h1 heading elements, I'm going to open span tag, in which I'm going to enter some pricing, let's say 500 and then 1000. After span elements, I'm going to open UL, in which we need div elements followed by the span. So inside that span element, we'll have check icons, but right now I'm going to insert just check. Then after span element, we need li, in which I'm going to insert feature. All right, so right after ul, I'm going to open p tag, in which we need span with the text ideal for. Then after span element, I'm going to insert small businesses, personal websites, and bloggers. Alright, so that's it about the content of our component. Right now we have here some hard-coded data, and as usual we will be replacing this hard-coded data with the dynamic one from the index.js file. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here all the elements, and now it's time to style them. Let's start with the first div element. I'm going to add here class name. So we need to create some padding inside the div elements. I'm going to add py, I mean vertical padding, it's going to be equal to 20. And then we need px equal to 96. If we go to the browser, then you will see that we have space on the left and right sides, and also at the top and bottom of the section. Next, I'm going to customize the div element, which is placed right after the heading. So let's add here class name. First of all, I'm going to define the height, which is going to be equal to full. It means 100%. Then we need flex layout. I'm going to define flex layout for LG breakpoint. So we need here flex column. Next, we need items center and justify between, in order to create some space between the flex items. Finally, I'm going to create gap on all four sides. It's going to be equal to 8. All right. After that, I'm going to customize the next div elements. Let's add here class name. So here we need width, which will be equal to 350 pixels. Actually, we need here an arbitrary value. Then I'm going to define width. Then I'm going to define width for XL breakpoint. So on that breakpoint, width is going to be equal to 300 pixels. Then we need SM breakpoint. The width is going to be 270 pixels. After that, I'm going to define background. We'll be using background sync 50. After that, let's define the flex layout. We need flex. Then we have to change the direction of the flex layout. I'm going to insert here flex call. Next, I'm going to define gap on vertical axis. We need actually not vertical but horizontal, since we changed the direction of the flex layout. So we need here gap y 6. Then we need here padding. It's going to be equal to 6. Next, we will have border. Then we need color of the border to be red, 400. Let's make the element rounded. Use rounded XL. And also, I'm going to change the text color. We need here text gray, 600. All right, so as you can see, we have here the first pricing card. Next, I'm going to customize the elements inside the pricing card. So I'm going to start with the h1 heading element. Let's open here class name. I'm going to add here text with the size 3XL. Then we need LG breakpoint on which the text is going to be LG. Next, I'm going to define the font as light. Also, I'm going to create some space between the letters using tracking white. And finally, we need text center. Okay, so as you can see, the heading of the pricing card is customized. Next, we have to move on and customize the prices themselves. So we need to customize span elements. Let's add here text to Excel. Then we need algebraic points, and the text is going to be Excel. After that, I'm going to add here text center. Okay, so that's it about the prices. Next, I'm going to customize the UL elements. So let's go ahead and add here class name. We need flex layout, so I'm going to add here flex. Then we have to change the direction of the flex layout. Let's add flex column, and it should be followed by gap y2. All right, after that, let's go ahead and customize the div elements, which wraps span and li. So let's add here class name. I'm going to add here flex, then item center, and then we need gap. Horizontally, it's going to be gap x3. All right, so as you can see, both elements are placed horizontally side by side. Next, I'm going to customize the span elements. I mean the check icon. Right now, we have here just the word check. We'll replace it soon. So let's add here class name. I'm going to define text size. It's going to be 2XL. And then we need the color of the text, which is going to be yellow, 500. All right, after that, I'm going to style the li elements, which is going to be the feature. So I'm going to add here text, and the size is going to be 15 pixels. We need an arbitrary value. Next, I'm going to define font height. And finally, we need tracking Y to create some space between the letters. All right, after that, let's customize the paragraph, which includes the span elements. I'm going to add to the P element class name. So we need here text, SM, then font height, and also I'm going to add here text center. And finally, let's customize the span elements. We need here class name. The first one is going to be text SM. Actually, we don't need text SM because we already use text SM for the paragraph. So I'm going to add here font semi-bold. Okay, so now that we have finished creating the content of our pricing plans component and given it a nice styling, it is time to move on and make this section dynamic by replacing the hard-coded data with the real data. Right now, all of our pricing information, features, and details are hard-coded directly into the JSX, which isn't very flexible. By using dynamic data, we'll make this component much more scalable and easier to update in the future. So let's dive into the data we're going to use for this section. The data for the pricing plans is stored in our index.js file. I'm going to place it on the right side. So let's go ahead and find pricing plans. So here we have it. Let's break down this data and see what we're working with. We have an array called pricing plans that contains 3 different objects, each representing a pricing plan, basic, premium, and standard. Each object has a series of properties that describe the plan in detail. The first property is title. This is simply the name of the plan, like basic, standard, or premium. We will use this title to display the name at the top of each pricing card. Next, we have pricing, which contains the price range for each plan. For instance, our basic plan has a pricing value of 500 to 1000, while the premium plan ranges between 5000 and 10,000. This information will be displayed prominently in the card to give the user a clear idea of the cost. Then we have an array called features. This is a list of the features included in each plan. For example, the basic plan includes things like up to 5 pages, responsive design, and basic SEO. The premium plan, on the other hand, includes more advanced features, and we'll be using this array to dynamically render each feature as a list item within the card. Lastly, we have a recommended property, which is a short description of who this plan is ideal for. For example, the basic plan is ideal for small businesses, personal websites, and bloggers. This information will be displayed at the bottom of the card to help visitors quickly identify which plan might suit their needs. Alongside our pricing plans data, we also have a check icon that we are importing from Remix Icon React. This icon is going to be used next to each feature in the list to give a nice visual indicator of what's included in the plan. We'll make use of this in the dynamic rendering part to keep our cards looking consistent and professional. Now that we have broken down the data and know what each piece represents, we are ready to move on to replacing our hard-coded information with this dynamic data. Let's go ahead and start by importing this data into our pricing plans component and map through it to display each plan in a more flexible way. We'll be bringing in both the pricing plans array and the check icon from the assets. So let's start by adding the import statement at the top of the file. We need pricing plans array, and then we need check icon. Next, we need to map through the pricing plans array to render each plan dynamically. To do this, we will use the map method directly in our JSX. This will let us loop through each item in the pricing plans array and generate a card for every plan. So I'm going to open curly braces right after these developments and then use pricing plans dot map function with a callback function with two parameters. We will have here plan and then I. So we pass in two parameters, the plan object itself and an index I to keep track of each item. Next we have to cut the development and paste it into the map function. So I'm going to grab this development from here and paste it here. Now, since we are generating multiple elements in this loop, it's important to provide a unique key prop to the outermost element of each plan. In this case, that's our main div for each card. So I'm going to add here key prop with the value I. Again, this is necessary because React needs a way to uniquely identify each element to optimize the rendering process. After setting up the loop, we will start replacing the hard-coded data with our dynamic values. First, we will change the plan title by replacing the text with plan.title. This will now dynamically display the title of each plan, like basic, standard, or premium. Next, we have pricing. So instead of this text here, I'm going to insert plan.pricing. This change means that the pricing information for each card will now come directly from our pricing plans array. We're also going to replace the hard-coded check text with our imported check icon component. So instead of this text here, we need check icon. So this will allow us to use a real icon next to each feature, giving a more polished look to our design. We have then to move on to updating the ideal for section at the bottom of each card by inserting plan.recommended. This ensures that each plan dynamically displays its ideal audience, making the cards more informative. So now, if we go to the browser, we will get 3 different cards. Each of them has different content, different titles, basic, premium, standard, also different pricing, and different ideal for section. Next, we need to dynamically generate the list of features for each plan. To do this, we have to use another map function, this time mapping over the features array inside each plan. So let's go back to the VS Code, and here, inside the UL elements, open curly braces, and insert here plan.features.map. We need a callback function with 2 parameters, feature and the index, let's say j. So we use here a similar structure as before, passing in feature and an index j as parameters. Next, we have to cut the development and paste it into the map function. So I'm going to cut this development from here and insert it here. We have to add a key prop to the div inside this map to give React a unique identifier for each feature. This is crucial because we're rendering multiple elements within this loop. So I'm going to add here key prop, and the value is going to be J. Now we simply replace the hard-coded feature text with the actual feature. By doing this, each card will now show its own unique list of features based on the data we've defined in our index.js file. If we go to the browser, then we will get here the list of features in each pricing card. Alright, now we have to make one more modification to add some dynamic styles to our cards. Specifically, we want the premium plan to stand out a bit. So in order to do that, we have to change class to template string. So I'm going to cut this class name from here, then open curly braces followed by the backticks, and then insert back the class name. So I'm going to get rid of width from here. I mean with the default value and the value for Excel breakpoint. I'm going to cut those two classes. Then here I'm going to insert $sign with curly braces, and then we need the condition I equal to 1 followed by a ternary operator. And now we have to insert here the classes that we cut. So here, instead of 350 pixels, we need 370 pixels. And then for Excel breakpoint, we need 320 pixels. Next, we need the second case if the condition is false. Now I'm going to paste again the the cut classes. So here we need 350 pixels and 300 pixels. Also, I'm going to add here background white. As for the second case, we need background zinc 50. And I'm going to get rid of default background zinc from here. So this code dynamically adjusts width and background color, giving the premium plan a unique look. So here we have condition I equals to 1, which means that those styles will be applied to the premium plan, which is the second member in the array. So if I is not 1, we apply the default styles. This way, the premium card gets a special treatment, visually highlighting it on the page. So if we go to the browser, then you'll find that second pricing card, the premium one, is a bit different from the rest of the cards. In the same way, we need to modify the class for the span element inside the UL. Let's go back to the VS Code and find the span element. This element here. Again, I'm going to cut those classes. Then we need curly braces with backticks. And I'm going to paste back the classes. Now we need here $sign with curly braces and the same condition I equal to 1. If this is true, then we need text red 300. And if it is false, then we need this default color. So I'm going to cut this color from here. And actually, we need here quotes, then another quotes, and we have to paste here the second class. All right, so let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the check icons for the premium card are now different. All right, so that's how we replace our static content with dynamic data and add some conditional styling to our pricing plan section. This makes the component much more flexible, clean, and easy to update in the future. Now that we have our pricing plans component dynamically displaying all the plans, it is time to add some animations to really make the section pop. We want the cards to slide up smoothly when they first appear on the screen, and we also want them to have a subtle hover effect to make them feel interactive. We're going to use framer motion to achieve this, which allows us to easily create and manage complex animations. Specifically, we will add an animation that causes the cards to move up from below with a slight fading effect as they come into view. Then we will add a hover effect to scale up the cards when we hover over them, adding a sense of interactivity. So let's go ahead and dive in and implement these animations. First, we need to import motion from framer motion. So we need here import statement, then motion from framer motion. By bringing in motion, we are setting the stage to easily animate the elements in our component. Next, we need to modify the main div inside our map function, which represents each pricing plan card. Right now it is just a regular div, but to add animations, we need to turn it into a motion div. So I'm going to wrap this div element with motion. By using motion div, we are telling framer motion that this is an element that we want to animate, and it gives us access to various animation properties we can use to bring our cards to life. Now let's add the animation attributes to this motion div. The first one is going to be initial, which should be include y equal to 200 and opacity 0. So this property defines the starting state of the element before the animation begins. We want each card to start slightly below its final position and to be invisible. So here y200 means the cards will start 200 pixels down from their final position, and opacity 0 makes them fully transparent. This setup creates a smooth sliding and fading in effect when the cards appear. Next, we have to add the while in view property. So we need here y0 and opacity 1. So this attribute defines how the element should animate when it scrolls into view. We want the cards to move to their final position and become fully visible. So here y0 means the cards will slide to their final position, while opacity 1 makes them fully visible. This creates a clean and smooth entry effect as the user scrolls down to the pricing section. We also have to include the viewport attribute to control when this animation should trigger. So I'm going to add here viewport, which will include property called once with the value true. So by setting once to true, we are telling framer motion that the animation should only happen the first time the element comes into view. This prevents the cards from continuously animating every time the user scrolls, making for a more refined user experience. Now, if we go to the browser, scroll up, reload the page, and scroll down, we will get this nice effect. Next, let's add an interactive hover effect to our card using while hover. We want the card to slightly scale up when the user hovers over them, giving a sense of interactivity. So in order to do that, I'm going to add here while hover, which will include scale with the value 1.05. So this line means that when the user hovers over a card, it will scale to 105% of its original size, creating a subtle zoom in effect. This animation makes the component feel more engaging and responsive to user interactions. Finally, we need to set up the transition property. This controls the duration and delay of the animation, giving us fine-grained control over how it unfolds. So we need to add here transition, which will include duration 0.4. Then we will have delay, which will be equal to I multiplied by 0.2. And then we need scale, duration 0.15. So here, duration 0.4 specifies that the animation should take 0.4 seconds to complete. The delay, I multiplied by 0.2, adds a slight stagger effect to each card based on its index I, so the cards will animate in sequence rather than all at once. The stagger delay creates a cascading animation effect, which makes the entrance more dynamic and visually appealing. Finally, scale with duration 0.15 ensures that the hover effect will happen quickly, giving immediate feedback when the user hovers over a card. Alright, let's go to the browser. As you can see, we have here Nice and cool. Hover effect. Let's reload the page and scroll down. So everything works perfectly. Alright, so now that we wrapped up the pricing plans component, we brought our plans to life with dynamic animations and smooth hover effects, making the section both informative and visually engaging. Each plan now elegantly slides into view, and the hover effect adds the interactive touch we were aiming for. Next, it's time to move on to our second part, building the contact component. This is where users will be able to get in touch, ask questions, or leave feedback. So let's dive right in and start creating an interactive and user-friendly contact form. First of all, we have to close these components. Then I'm going to create new component in the components folder. Let's call it contact.jsx. Then we need a new functional component using RAFCE shortcut. I'm going to insert here use client. Then I'm going to go to the page.js file and duplicate this line of code. We need here contact. And then I'm going to insert here contact component. All right. So in case of contact component, we don't need index.js because we don't need to grab any data from this file. Now I'm going to add here heading with the text get in touch. Then we need to import heading from subcomponents. Let's go to the browser. So here we have new component contact with the heading get in touch. After that, I'm going to add some content to the component. So right after heading, I'm going to open div tag. Then again, we need div tag. Then inside the div tag, I'm going to insert image component. Let's import image component from next image. Now I'm going to insert here a couple of different attributes. The first one is source attribute. So here I'm going to use this GIF, contact.gif. Let's insert here contact.gif. Then we need alt attribute. I'm going to insert here contact image. And then we need width and height. The width is going to be 400. As for the height, I'm going to make it 400 as well. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here this nice and cool contact GIF. After that, I'm going to create form elements. So right after this closing div element, I'm going to open form. Let's get rid of action attribute. We don't need it. Inside the form, I'm going to open div elements, which will include two input elements. The first one will be input type text. As for the second one, it's going to be for email. Then after that, I'm going to open again input with type text. Next, we need text area. Then after text area, I'm going to open again input. And in this case, the type is going to be submit. All right, so I think that's it about the content of the contact component. So here we have the GIF, also the inputs. Next, we have to style those elements. So let's start with the first div element. I'm going to add here class name. I'm going to define height, which is going to be equal to screen. 100 viewport height. Then we need py, padding vertically, 20, and then px, 96. All right, after that, I'm going to customize the div element, which is placed after the heading. So let's add here class name. First of all, I'm going to define width and height. The width is going to be full. As for the height, it's going to be full as well. I mean 100%. Actually, we need here dash. Next, I'm going to add here my auto in order to place the element in the center. Then we need the flex layout. For LG breakpoint, I'm going to change the flex direction. Let's make it column. Next, we need items center, and then justify between in order to create some space between the flex items. Then we need LG breakpoints on which justify is going to be center. Then create some gap vertically using gap x 20. Also, we need LG breakpoints on which gap x is going to be 0. And finally, we need gap y 20. All right. So right now, those inputs are not visible by default, but we'll fix that soon. Let's go back to the VS Code and customize image elements. I'm going to add here class name. So we need here width equal to 400 pixels. Then I'm going to make it rounded with rounded empty. And finally, let's decrease slightly the opacity. I'm going to make it 8. Okay, after that, I'm going to customize the form elements. So let's add here class name. Let's define width. It's going to be 600 pixels. Then I'm going to define LG breakpoint, and the width on LG breakpoint is going to be 400 pixels. After that, we need SM breakpoint on which the width is going to be 100%, I mean full. After that, we need flexbox. Let's add here flex, followed by flex column, because we need vertical direction. And finally, we need gap on all 4 sides with the value 3. Next, we have to customize development. Let's add here class name. So first of all, we need to define the width. It's going to be full. Then we need flex. Then I'm going to define LG breakpoint, and I'm going to change the flex direction on LG breakpoint. We need flex column. Next, we need gap x3, and then LG breakpoint, where the gap y will be 3. Alright, so now it's time to customize the input elements. Let's start with the first input. So let's add here class name. I'm going to define width, which is going to be full. Then we need border, and the color of the border is going to be yellow, 500. Then I'm going to make the input rounded using rounded empty. Also, I'm going to change the background. Let's use background sync 100. After that, I'm going to define padding horizontally, I mean px4, and then we need py2. Also, let's set text to SM. Then we need some space between the letters using tracking wider. Next, I'm going to define the color of the text. It's going to be text gray 500. And finally, let's add here outline none. Besides that, I'm going to add here placeholder attribute with the value your name. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the first input element looks pretty nice. Next, we have to customize the second input element, which is for email. Actually, I'm going to grab these attributes and add them here. We need here your email. As for the classes, I think we need the same classes. So let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the second input element is customized. Next, we have the third input, which is for subject. So I'm going to paste again 2 attributes, I mean class name and placeholder. Let's change the value of placeholder. We need here subject. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the third input element is customized. And now it's time to style the text area. So let's go ahead and add some classes to the text area. We need here class name. First of all, let's define here max height, which is going to be equal to 250 pixels. Then I'm going to define minimum height. It's going to be 150 pixels. Next, we need the same classes that we used for those inputs. So I'm going to grab from here all the class names and paste them here. Now let's add here placeholder, which is going to be right knee. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, we have here nice and cool text area. Finally, we have to customize the submit button. So let's go to the VS Code and add here class name. Actually, let's grab those classes. We'll make here slight changes. So in case of submit button, we need background to be yellow with 600. Next, I'm going to add here font light. And also we need to change the color of the text. Instead of gray, I'm going to add here white. And also we need to add here hover effect. So on hover, we need to change BG to yellow 500. And also we need transition colors. And finally, let's add here cursor pointer. Okay, so I think that's it about the classes. The only thing that we have to do here is to add value attribute. It's going to be send message. Let's go to the browser. All right, so now that we've completed the content and styling of our content component, we have a visually appealing section. We have added a form, styled the input fields, and incorporated a lovely contact GIF. The layout is clean and the styling is consistent with the rest of our project. But as it stands, the section still feels a bit static. To make it come to life, we're going to add some animations using Framer Motion. These animations will make our content section more dynamic. Specifically, we want to animate the image and the form so that they slide into view as the user scrolls down. This will give the page a smoother, more interactive feel. For the image, we will use a sliding up animation, while for the form, we'll have it slide in from the right. Adding these subtle yet effective animations will enhance the user experience and make our section look more polished. First, we need to import the motion component from Framer Motion. So let's add here import statements. We need motion from Framer Motion. Now we're going to wrap the elements we want to animate with motion div. The two elements we will focus on are the div containing the image and the form itself. So I'm going to add to the image motion. And also we need motion for the form elements as well. So let's add here motion. Actually, we need here form and motion. Okay, now we have to add a few attributes to control the animation. We're going to set the initial state to make the element invisible and positioned lower down the page. I mean the div element, the wrapper of the image. So let's add here initial. I'm going to add here opacity 0, and then we need Y with value 150. So the opacity 0 means that when the element first renders, it will be fully transparent. The Y150 will push the image down by 150 pixels, creating a starting point for the animation. Next, we have to use while in view attribute to define what happens when the element comes into view on the screen. So let's add here while in view. It should be equal to opacity 1 and Y0. Here we set opacity to 1 to make it fully visible and Y0 to bring it back to its original position, making the image slide up smoothly. For the transition, we need duration equal to 0.4. We set the duration to 0.4 seconds, which determines how long the animation takes. And finally, we need viewport with once with the value true. So here we ensure that the animation only plays the first time the element enters the viewport, avoiding repetitive animations as the user scrolls. Alright, so actually I think we have some errors here. So as you can see, we have to correct the closing motion font tag. Now, I think everything is correct. Let's go to the browser. I'm going to reload the page. Alright, so as you can see, the image has nice and cool animation. It comes from the bottom side. Now we have to do the same thing for the form element. So let's go back to the VS Code. This time we will apply a sliding in effect from the right. Similar to the image, we start by setting initial properties. So we need here initial, which should be equal to opacity 0 and x 150. So here opacity 0 makes the form invisible initially, and x 150 moves it 150 pixels to the right, creating a starting point off screen. Then we need while in view, in which we will have opacity 1 and x 0. Here we define the final state when the form comes into view. Setting opacity 1 makes it fully visible, and x0 slides it into its original position on the screen. Next, I'm going to add here transition with duration 0.4. So we define how the animation will play out. Again, we set the duration to 0.4 seconds to control the speed of the animation. And similar to the image container, we have to use viewport with once true. We ensure that the animation only occurs the first time the form scrolls into view. Okay, so I think that's it. We can test the result. I'm going to reload the page. So as you can see, we have here nice and cool animations. Alright, so we've now successfully completed both the pricing and contact sections. In the pricing section, we created an engaging layout for our pricing plans, added dynamic data, and even brought in some cool animations using Framer Motion to give it that polished and interactive look. Moving on to the contact section, we built a responsive form, styled it to match our website's overall theme. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future parts. And of course, leave a comment if you have any questions or suggestions. I love hearing your thoughts. In the next part, we will be building a questions section where we will dive into creating an interactive FAQ section to address common user inquiries. It's going to be packed with useful features and design techniques, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.